What's something that's not a cult, but feels like a cult? The Herbalife organization. They were charged with being a pyramid scheme, but they still operate in a similar way. There are several people I grew up with who became hooked on it, and they definitely act like they're in a cult. AA. I'm an AA. I like AA. It saved my life, but it is cultish a lot of the time. Marching band. If you know, you know. One thing that still blows my mind to this day is that people pay thousands of dollars to be in drum corps bands. So many questions when I first learned about it. Oh, so it's like being in an orchestra where it's your job to play and be the best in the world? Nope. You pay them actually. Oh well, at least you'll be basically famous or at least really well known for playing that instrument? Nope. The only people who even know the name of your corps or even what drum and bugle corps is in general are other corps members, their family, or high school marching band kids and their teachers. High school clubs, where you spend a lot of time together. Marching band and theater are the ones that come to mind for me. CrossFit. A friend of mine does CrossFit, and I made the mistake of saying I'm glad you found something that works for you. Got a tirade of why it works for everyone. Some families. If you're inside the family, you are accepted no matter what, and you don't question anything. If you're outside the family, you are treated politely, but don't really matter much, unless you act as part of the family. If you were part of the family, but betray them, you are excommunicated, and they spread lies about you. Story of my ducking life. Nutriboom. Boom boom. 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 Just by the by, Debbie Stovelman is happy, healthy and alive. Some fandoms, especially K-pop fandoms. Multi-level marketing. Reddit sometimes. Sometimes. Bit of an understatement. Sororities. Any fandom if you go deep enough kinda feels like a cult. These past few months I have gotten super into HoloLive. And well, all hail Corone. The worst part about that is that those obsessed people are the ones that ruin the experience for the normal fans and get them targeted as being bad. It's happened so many times, and we still get bashed for it despite kicking those bad ones out of the community. Peloton. Seriously, my dad hasn't stopped talking about his since getting it a year ago and went so far as to buy me one for Christmas this year, which is super generous and my fat ass will totally benefit, but feels like him being indoctrinated into something. The instructors are really intense and say culty things. I think the idea is to physically torture you to the point that you don't notice you're being programmed to spread Peloton gospel to anyone who will listen. I've been so bored that joining a cult where I get hotter sounds okay though. The Holy Church of CrossFit. Anasanas. What tipped you off? The Latin. The constant themes of death and impermanence. Or the low chanting? Flat Earth Society. Their inability to understand that the earth is not flat baffles me to oblivion. Call me Kevin's subscribers. It's not a cult, I promise. People who own Thermomix machines spend that much on an over-elaborate food processor and I guess you need to double down, but man, they just won't shut the duck up about how it changed their life. Oh, cooking is so different for me now. Oh, it's just so convenient. Having said that, I did once go to a Thermomix party where they try to mind wash you into they're not a cult. Because the lady that invited me was recently divorced and pretty hot, and I figured why not give it a shot. I never particularly liked her ex-husband, so could have been a multi-bird stone throw. I barely made it out alive without my wallet being light and a couple of grand. Man, the sales pressure was intense. Forced school songs that talk about being a part of the school forever. Elon Musk's fan followers. Funny thing is he clearly had a social media campaign running to change his image for the better. At first everyone pretty much knew he was part wacko. Then he gets on the Junior podcast, smokes weed. Then all of a sudden he is this grand meme lord who browses Reddit and thus is great. Diet culture. Keto. Paleo. Dash. Politics. Lately. Texas A&M University. Keto. 21 Pilots fan base. The Apple consumer base. Fan base? I don't know. They just feel like a ducking cult. Also, gaming. Sometimes, I say this as someone who loves gaming, but would hesitate to call himself a gamer due to the negative connotation associated with the term. I sometimes have to explain to people that the majority of cell phone users worldwide do not own an iPhone. Also, you can buy a smartphone for less than $100 that does at least 90% of what an iPhone does for 1/10 of the price. Bitcoin. Anything with anonymous in the name. Lord have mercy. That is some serious cult shit. Been there. Done that. Told them they were full of shit. And it was basically a religious cult. And actually turned over a staff to realize that there was more than one way to Rome, so to speak. People who worship politicians like they will magically solve everything. I'm talking both far right and far left. Some workplaces. The ones that push the we're all family here attitude especially. Anything Tesla or Elon Musk. Reddit. Eating disorders and any pro-eating disorder sites. Those who have an eating disorder often view their disorder as their best friend, giving them names like Anna and Maya. And then there are those sites to make it worse. They treat eating disorders like they are sacred and often post rules in a cultish way. One site I used to visit in my dark days even had the 10 commandments of Anna now. If that doesn't sound cultish, IDK, what does? Don't even make me start about the weightless coaches on there. Farmville. Is it 2010 again? Anti-vaxxers. And I'd guess a lot of the new age stuff closely resembles or has all what it takes to fall under the category of a cult. Definition Eckhart Tolle Sadhguru and Deepak Chopra crappies could be considered cult-like. And of course, Osho. Summer camps. Chanting around the campfire. Belief in the old camp legends. And children becoming so devoted they beg their parents to return every year. Improv. Mega churches. The ones that air on TV with a crowd that rivals sports teams. Owns sports arenas and has its pastors fly in private jets. Working at an Apple store, apparently. MAGA. Not the Republicans, but Trump swing on the extreme right. Especially now that the election is settled. Like I still see Trump flags all over. And there's this one guy who every Saturday for the last 2 months goes and stands on this kinda main but not really intersection with a megaphone screaming about Trump. In a hollow live group. The real cult is Kairos group. American football. I know people who don't bother voting because they feel it doesn't matter if their football team loses though. End of the world. They buy branded everything too. Kitchen knives and shoes and stickers for their cars, and so many other things. Also no one at my work gets any work done during football season. Football is literally all they care about. It's such an annoying cult, and I hate it. All things Cosmere/Sanderson. I mean, I like it, and it's a big brain fandom, but I sorta dread explaining it to anyone who's clueless. Football club fans. Especially the organized group of supporters. I didn't find any specific word in English, but I meant clacks. Torcidus organizadus. etc. Edit. I found that they're called ultras in English. Edit 2. I'm referring to the game played with the feet. Weight Watchers. The die-hard Brexiters. If they're not declaring that Nigel Farage deserves a knighthood for lambing off about WW2. The 66 World Cup or something else equally ridiculous. If you argue with their baseless claims, you're a sore loser. Ramona can be spotted from the sheer amount of British and or English flags in their Twitter usernames. Beachbody, especially the coaches. White mom speed walking groups. A few years ago, my sister introduced me to a new church. I forgot what it was called. Anyway, once I came inside, I realized it was weird the moment I came in. First, they asked for my email address near the entrance. which would have been weird on its own. But after a few minutes of preaching, weirdness ensued. There were a lot of people praying loudly, hollering how great Jesus. Some people were praying on the bare floor. I don't even know how to describe this. Even my sister joined in. Once it was over, I drove home, feeling a bit creeped out. I only went there once, and I'm not planning to coming back again anytime soon. I don't about other churches, but this one was, in a word, bizarre. Singing McDonald's songs in the play area during a friend's birthday at McDonald's, eating McDonald's burger, and painting out pictures of Ronald McDonald. Diet culture, like legit. They go waste hundreds or even thousands of dollars just to have some pseudo-scientific not doctor tell them to cut out red meat so they can lose 1 more pound. By next year the same guy will tell them to get on a red meat only diet. I get it if you actually feel unhealthy or overweight, but most dieters I know are already underweight. It's actually really sad that our culture tricked us into thinking that you have to be underweight just for you to like yourself. Alcoholics Anonymous for sure. Us, memento mori. The military. The hardcore deaf community. I'm talking the kind who insist that being deaf isn't a disability. Intentionally seclude themselves from the hearing world and protest against cochlear implants. American school that make kids pledge allegiance to the flag every morning. That's high level indoctrination right there. Martial arts. Swear to God. Wine drinkers. Home coffee brewing. The folks at r/coffee are devoted. The US military, but especially the army. Indoctrination isn't hyperbole. Freemasonry. The teachings and practices of the secret fraternal, men only, order of free and accepted Masons. The largest worldwide secret society. Keros retreats at Catholic high schools. Mormonism. Adults who go to Disney every year with no kids and are obsessed with Disney. Everything about canon not only requires a religious level of blind faith, but encourages isolation from those around you while fostering devotion to a Q. Considering Q has gone from being semi-enclosed to Trump with Q level clearance, to likely Michael Flynn, to a dozen patriotic government operatives, to a single super powerful patriot is just the tip of the iceberg of the variety of ways this story doesn't make basic sense. Scammers tell you they are from Nigeria because they want to weed out all but the stupidest 1% to victimize. Canon makes a variety of decisions for similar reasons. Unless you has been primed by a few years of conservative talk shows canon ducking insane and no one but a blind idiot would believe in it, which is exactly the kind of soldiers they are trying to produce. The JoJo fandom. MLMs, but especially Mary Kay. I went to a convention once as the guest of a consultant because she was trying to get me to join. It was very Stepford. Also, she didn't tell me you were expected to dress up, so I showed up in jeans and a hoodie. Back in my university years I was in a student organization named AIESEC which offered students international apprenticeships. For me it totally felt like a cult. Flat earthers. But only cause they don't have the balls to be a cult. Beyonce's followers and seemingly the way she thinks about herself. At least from the outside looking in. Her achievements make zero sense to me. Nothing about what she does is groundbreaking. There's just that cult of personality surrounding her that makes her mediocre music into some sort of borderline religious experience for her weird fans. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.